Imagine a quiet evening, the kind where the world feels heavy, and the heart heavier still. Emma sits alone in her small apartment. The cities hum a distant murmur beyond her window. She's a young woman, not unlike you or me, navigating a world that often feels like it demands more than it gives. Her days are filled with the hum of emails, deadlines, and the weight of expectations at work, in friendships, in the life she's trying to build. But tonight, her mind is caught, tangled in a single moment that refuses to let go. A colleague, someone she'd trusted, took credit for her work. The sting of that betrayal lingers, sharp and unyielding, like a stone lodged in her chest. She replays the scene in her mind, the meeting room, the smug smile, the silence of her own voice as her ideas were claimed by another. Each time she revisits it, the anger tightens its grip. She feels it in her clenched jaw, her restless pacing, the way sleep eludes her. Resentment has become her companion, whispering justifications, fueling her sense of injustice. Why should she let it go? Why should she forgive when the wound feels so fresh? It's a question we've all asked at some point, isn't it? When someone wrongs us, when the world feels unfair, how do we loosen the chains that bind us to our pain? In the teachings of the Buddha, there's a word for this weight Emma carries, dukkha. It's the ache of life, the suffering that arises when things don't go as we wish. The Buddha taught that this suffering isn't just in the events themselves, betrayals, losses, disappointments, but in how we hold on to them. Emma's resentment is like a rope she's tied around her own heart, pulling tighter with every thought of her colleague's deceit. She believes holding on to her anger protects her, gives her strength. But the truth, as the Buddha saw it, is that it only deepens her suffering. Picture Emma now, sitting on her couch, a cup of tea gone cold in her hands. She's scrolling through her phone, seeking distraction, but her thoughts keep circling back. The modern world offers endless ways to escape social media, work, noise, but none of them quiet the storm inside. She wonders if she's alone in this, if others feel this same knot of anger and hurt. And perhaps you've felt it too, a grudge against a friend who let you down, a family member who didn't show up when you needed them, or even a stranger whose careless words cut deeper than they knew. Resentment doesn't discriminate. It finds us all. The Buddha once said that life is like a river, always moving, always changing. But when we cling to our pain, we build dams that stop the flow. Emma's dam is her resentment, and it's blocking the current of her life. She's not sleeping well, her focus at work is slipping, and even her moments of joy feel dimmed. The question isn't just why this happened to her, but whether she can find a way to let the river flow again. Can she release the stone in her chest? Can she find a path to peace? This isn't about forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. The Buddhist path doesn't ask us to erase our experiences, but to see them clearly, to understand how they shape us. Emma's story is just beginning, and like all of us, she's searching for a way to live with what's happened without letting it define her. The wisdom she seeks is already within her, waiting to be uncovered, like a seed beneath the soil. But how does she begin? How do any of us begin to loosen the chains of resentment and step toward freedom? Emma's apartment fades from view, but the weight of her resentment lingers, like a shadow cast across her days. She goes to work, smiles through meetings, but the memory of her colleague's betrayal simmers beneath the surface. It's a familiar feeling, isn't it? the way a single moment can cling to us, coloring everything else. We carry these moments not just in our minds but in our bodies, the tension in our shoulders, the tightness in our breath. Emma wants justice, an apology, something to make it right. But what if the answer isn't in chasing fairness? What if the path to peace lies in letting go? Long ago, the Buddha shared a story, one that feels as alive today as it did then. A man was struck by a poisoned arrow, its tip buried deep in his flesh. The pain was excruciating, and those around him rushed to help, urging him to let them remove the arrow. But the man refused. He demanded to know who shot it, why they aimed at him, what kind of poison it carried. He wanted answers before he would allow healing to begin. And so, as he questioned and waited, the poison spread, and his suffering grew. The Buddha asked, "Why add to our pain by clinging to questions that don't heal us?" Emma is like that man, her resentment the poisoned arrow. She replays her colleagues' words, dissects their motives, imagines confronting them. Each thought drives the arrow deeper. She tells herself she's protecting her dignity, but the truth is, she's the one hurting. There's an old saying often attributed to the wisdom of the Buddha. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Emma's hands are scorched, not her colleagues. The betrayal happened once, but she relives it every day, letting it burn again and again. This isn't to say her pain isn't real. Betrayal stings because it breaks something sacred: trust, connection, the belief that we're seen. In our modern lives, where we're taught to fight for our place, to demand what's ours, letting go can feel like giving up. Emma wonders, if she stops being angry, does it mean her colleague wins? Does it mean she's weak? But the Buddhist path offers a different view. It teaches non-attachment, not indifference, but a gentle release of the need to control what we cannot change. The arrow is real, but we don't have to let it define us. Imagine Emma walking home one evening, the city lights blurring as her mind churns. She passes a street vendor selling flowers, their colors vivid against the gray of the sidewalk. For a moment, she pauses, drawn to their beauty, but her thoughts pull her back to the meeting room, to the injustice. The flowers can't compete with the weight she carries. Yet, in that fleeting moment, there's a glimpse of something lighter, a reminder that life is still moving, still offering beauty if she can make space for it. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from clinging, and freedom comes from releasing. But how does Emma begin to loosen her grip on the coal that burns her? The answer lies not in forcing herself to forget, but in seeing her pain with new eyes. The parable of the poisoned arrow isn't about ignoring the wound. It's about choosing to heal instead of questioning why it happened. Emma's journey is just beginning, and the wisdom she needs is already stirring within her, like a quiet stream beneath the noise of her anger. Can she take the first step toward letting go, not for her colleague, but for herself? Emma's days blur together, each one tinged with the same restless energy. She's caught in a loop, her mind a mirror reflecting the same scene. Her colleague's smug smile, the silence of her own voice, the weight of being overlooked. It's as if her thoughts have carved a groove, and no matter how she tries to move forward, she slips back into it. We've all been there, haven't we? Replaying a moment of hurt, letting it define the shape of our days. The mind is a powerful thing, but it can become a trap, holding us captive to stories we tell ourselves. In the teachings of the Buddha, there's a word for this, chitta, the mind, the heart of our experience. The Buddha saw the mind as a mirror, reflecting what we feed it. When Emma dwells on her colleague's betrayal, she polishes that reflection, making it sharper, more vivid. Each replay deepens the pain, not because the event grows larger, but because her thoughts give it power. The Dhammapada, a collection of the Buddha's sayings, offers a gentle truth. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Emma's world right now is one of resentment, built by the thoughts she can't let go. Imagine her sitting at her desk, staring at a blank screen, her work forgotten. Her colleagues chat nearby, but she feels distant, as if a glass wall separates her from their laughter. The resentment isn't just about the betrayal anymore. It's become a lens, coloring how she sees everything, her job, her relationships, herself. She wonders if she's enough, if she could have done something to prevent this. The modern world doesn't help. It's loud, demanding, always pushing us to compare, to compete, to prove our worth. Emma's mind mirrors this chaos, and the reflection is exhausting. But what if she could clean the mirror? The Buddha taught that mindfulness is the key, not pushing thoughts away, but observing them like clouds passing across a clear sky. When Emma replays the betrayal, she's not just remembering. She's judging, labeling, weaving a story that keeps her stuck. Mindfulness invites her to pause, to notice the thought without becoming it. What does resentment feel like in her body? A tightness in her chest, a heat in her cheeks. What does it whisper? That she's been wronged, that she deserves better. By watching these thoughts, not fighting them, she can begin to see them for what they are, fleeting, not fixed. Picture her now, trying this for the first time. She's in her apartment, the lights low, sitting cross-legged on a cushion. She closes her eyes, takes a breath, and notices the swirl of her thoughts. At first, it's overwhelming. The anger surges, the memory sharpens. But then, slowly, she begins to name what she feels. Anger, hurt, betrayal. Not I am angry, but anger is here. It's a small shift, but it's the beginning of freedom. The Buddha's wisdom isn't about erasing pain. It's about changing how we meet it. Emma's mind is still a mirror, but perhaps it can reflect something new, something softer, something true. This practice isn't easy. In a world that moves so fast, slowing down to watch our thoughts feels foreign, even indulgent. Yet, it's in this stillness that Emma starts to see the shape of her suffering. The betrayal wasn't just an event. It was a story she built around it, a story that's holding her captive. Can she rewrite it? Can she polish the mirror of her mind to reflect peace instead of pain? The path is unfolding, and though she doesn't know it yet, she's already taken a step toward wisdom. Emma's breath steadies as she sits in the quiet of her apartment, the flicker of a candle casting soft shadows on the wall. For the first time in weeks, she feels a moment of stillness, a crack in the armor of her resentment. But the anger is still there, waiting, ready to pull her back. It's a stubborn guest, this resentment, settling into the corners of her heart like dust. She wonders how to move forward, how to free herself from a wound that feels so personal. In her search for answers, she meets someone unexpected, a mentor, an older woman named Lila, who carries a calm that seems to soften the air around her. Layla is no monk, but her presence feels like a teaching in itself. She's a volunteer at a local community center where Emma, on a whim, attends a meditation class. Lila's voice is gentle, her eyes kind, and when she speaks, it's as if she's sharing a secret the world has forgotten. She tells Emma about metta, the Buddhist practice of loving kindness, a way of offering compassion not just to others but to oneself. Resentment, Lila says, is like debris clogging a river. It stops the flow of your life. Compassion is what clears the way. Emma listens, unsure but curious, her heart stirring with the possibility of release. Picture a river, Lila suggests, its waters moving freely until branches and stones pile up, slowing its current. Emma's resentment is that debris built from her colleague's betrayal, her own hurt, the weight of unmet expectations. Lila teaches her to imagine sending kindness to herself, to her pain, even to the person who hurt her. It sounds impossible. Why should she offer kindness to someone who caused her suffering? But Lila smiles and shares an old saying, "Let bygones be bygones." It's not about excusing the wrong, she explains, but about choosing not to carry it. In Buddhism, forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for the one who's been holding the burden too long. Emma tries the practice, hesitantly at first. Sitting in the community center's small room, she closes her eyes and follows Lila's guidance. "May I be at peace," she whispers, her voice barely audible. The words feel strange, like they don't belong to her yet. Then, "May my colleague be at peace." The thought resists, like a door stuck shut. But she tries again, picturing the river, imagining the debris loosening, floating away. It's not a sudden miracle. Resentment doesn't vanish in a single breath, but something shifts. The tightness in her chest eases, just a little, like a knot beginning to unravel. In our modern lives, we're taught to hold grudges, to demand justice, to keep score. But the Buddhist path of metta offers a different way. It's not about pretending the hurt didn't happen, but about refusing to let it define you. Emma's colleague may never apologize, may never change, but Emma can choose to set down the debris. Lila shares a practical step. Each day, offer a small wish for peace for yourself, for someone you love, even for someone who's caused you pain. It's a practice as simple as a breath, yet as profound as the river's flow. As Emma leaves the class, she feels lighter, not free, but less tethered. The city around her hums with its usual chaos, but she notices the warmth of the evening air, the way the streetlights glow against the dusk. Compassion, she's beginning to see, is not weakness. It's a quiet strength, a way to reclaim her own heart. The river of her life is still there, waiting to flow freely. Can she keep practicing, keep clearing the debris until the current runs clear? Emma walks through her days with a new awareness, the practice of metta lingering like a soft echo in her mind. She's trying, whispering wishes for peace to herself and, tentatively, to her colleague. But the resentment still surfaces, especially when she sees them at work, their casual confidence, a reminder of the betrayal. It's not the act itself that stings now, but the expectations she had of fairness, of loyalty, of a world where hard work is always rewarded. These expectations she's beginning to see are as heavy as the resentment they fuel. They're the roots of her pain, tangled deep beneath the surface. The Buddha spoke of anicca, the truth that all things change people, circumstances, even our own hearts. Emma's expectations were like a contract she wrote in her mind. If she worked hard, if she trusted others, life would be fair. But life, as the Buddha taught, doesn't follow our scripts. Clinging to how things should be creates suffering. Like trying to hold water in your hands, it slips away, leaving you grasping at nothing. There's an old proverb that captures this. Expectations are the root of all heartache. Emma's heartache isn't just her colleague's betrayal. It's the belief that things could have been different. Picture her now, sitting in a coffee shop on a rainy afternoon, her journal open before her. She's been writing, trying to untangle her thoughts. She lists her expectations, that her colleague would value her, that her work would speak for itself, that fairness would prevail. Each one feels like a stone she's carried, adding to the weight of her resentment. Lila, her mentor, had suggested she reflect on anicca, on the impermanence of all things. Nothing stays the same, Lila said. Not your pain, not your colleague's actions, not even you. Let that truth soften what you hold on to. Emma tries to see it. Her colleague's betrayal wasn't personal. Not really. It was a moment born of their own fears, their own need to shine. And her expectations? They were born of her own hopes, her own desire to be seen. Both are fleeting, like clouds moving across the sky. She writes in her journal, "What if I let go of needing things to be fair? What if I let life be what it is?" The questions feel heavy, but they also feel like a door opening, just a crack. She's not there yet, but she's beginning to see that her expectations, not just the betrayal, are what keep her stuck. In our modern world, we're taught to plan, to control, to expect outcomes. We build careers, relationships, lives on the assumption that effort guarantees reward. But the Buddha's wisdom reminds us that change is the only constant. Emma's pain comes from wanting her colleague to be different, her workplace to be just, her life to align with her vision. Releasing those expectations doesn't mean giving up. It means making space for something new. Lila suggested a simple practice. Notice when you're clinging to a should and ask, what if this changes? It's a way to loosen the grip of the mind, to let the heart breathe. As Emma closes her journal, the rain outside slows to a drizzle. She feels a flicker of relief, not because the resentment is gone, but because she's starting to see it differently. The world hasn't changed, but her way of meeting it is shifting, like a river finding a new path around a stone. Can she keep walking this path, letting go of what she thought life owed her, and find peace in what remains? Emma's journal lies closed on her coffee table, its pages holding the first traces of her shifting perspective. She's beginning to see the weight of her expectations, how they've shaped her resentment into something larger than the betrayal itself. But letting go is not a single act. It's a journey, one that requires patience and a willingness to meet herself where she is. The city around her moves on, cars honk, deadlines loom. Her colleague's name still appears in emails, but Emma is learning to pause, to breathe, to notice the space between her thoughts and her pain. It's in this space that she's finding something new, a spark of wisdom, faint but growing. The Buddha spoke of prajna, the wisdom that comes from seeing things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. For Emma, this means looking at her colleague not as an enemy, but as another human, flawed and struggling, just as she is. Lila, her mentor, had shared a saying that lingers with her. To understand all is to forgive all. It's not about excusing what happened, but about seeing the bigger picture, the web of fears, desires, and imperfections that drive us all. Emma's colleague took credit for her work, yes, but perhaps they were driven by insecurity, by the same need for validation that Emma knows so well. Picture her now back at the community center, sitting in a circle with others who've come to learn from Lila. The room is quiet, the air soft with the scent of incense. Lila guides them through a meditation, asking them to picture someone who's hurt them, to see them not as a villain, but as a person carrying their own burdens. Emma hesitates, her mind resisting the image of her colleague. But then she tries, picturing them, not in the meeting room, but in a moment of vulnerability, perhaps worried about their job, their worth, their place in the world. It's a small act, but it shifts something inside her, like a stone loosening in the riverbed. This is the heart of prajna, seeing clearly beyond the stories we tell ourselves. The Buddha's Eightfold Path speaks of right understanding and right intention, ways of aligning our hearts with truth and compassion. Emma's resentment has been a story of injustice, of me versus them. But what if there's no them? What if it's just life, unfolding with all its messiness? She's starting to see her colleagues' actions as a moment, not a definition of who they are or who she is. This wisdom doesn't erase the hurt, but it softens its edges, makes it less all-consuming. In our modern lives, we're quick to judge, to divide the world into right and wrong, good and bad. But the Buddha's path invites us to pause, to look deeper. Emma's practice now is simple. When resentment rises, she asks herself, what am I not seeing? It's a question that opens doors, that invites her to consider her colleague's humanity, her own imperfections, the fleeting nature of it all. She's not fully free, yet resentment still visits, especially on hard days, but she's learning to meet it with curiosity, not captivity. As she leaves the community center, the evening sky is clear, stars just beginning to show. Emma feels a quiet strength, a sense that she's reclaiming her heart, not by changing the past, but by changing how she carries it. The river of her life is flowing again, not fully clear, but moving. She's on a path now, one that leads not just to peace, but to a deeper wisdom, one that can hold both pain and possibility. Emma's steps feel lighter as she walks home under the starlit sky, the night air cool against her skin. The practice of seeing her colleagues' humanity, of loosening the story of us versus them, has begun to shift something deep within her. Yet, peace is not a destination she's reached. It's a process, one that unfolds slowly like a flower opening to the morning sun. Resentment still lingers, not as a constant storm now, but as a passing cloud, casting brief shadows on her heart. She wonders how to keep moving forward, how to nurture the fragile wisdom she's found. The answer, she's learning, lies in embracing the impermanence of it all, her pain, her anger, even herself. The Buddha's teaching of anicca, the truth that all things change, is both a challenge and a comfort. Emma's resentment feels so solid, so permanent, but Lila has taught her to see it differently. Nothing lasts forever, Lila said, her voice steady as a river. Not your hurt, not your colleagues' actions, not even the version of you who carries this pain. There's a Buddhist saying that resonates with Emma now. Time is the best healer, but wisdom is its guide. Time alone might dull the edge of her resentment, but wisdom prajna helps her shape that healing, turning it into something meaningful. Imagine Emma sitting in her apartment, a notebook open before her. She's taken to journaling, a practice Lila suggested to trace the currents of her thoughts. Tonight she writes about her colleague, not with anger, but with curiosity. What drove them to act as they did? What fears or pressures shaped their choice? And what about her own heart? She writes about the moments she's clung to fairness, to being right, and how those moments have kept her tethered to suffering. The act of writing feels like tending a garden, pulling weeds to make space for something new. This is where the modern world meets ancient wisdom. We're taught to fix things quickly, pop a pill, scroll for a distraction, move on. But healing, Emma's learning, takes patience. She's begun to notice small changes, how she smiles more easily, how her sleep is less restless, how she can sit through a meeting without her stomach nodding at her colleague's voice. These are not grand victories, but quiet ones, like ripples spreading across a still pond. The Buddha's path doesn't promise instant freedom. It offers a way to walk with what is, to let time and wisdom do their work. Emma's practice now includes a simple ritual. Each evening, she lights a candle and reflects on one thing that felt heavy that day. She names it resentment, frustration, doubt, and then she lets it go, not by forcing it away, but by acknowledging its impermanence. This too will pass, she whispers, a mantra that feels like a bridge between her pain and her peace. For those of us listening, this is a practice we can try too. Notice the weight you carry, name it gently, and remind yourself that it won't last forever. It's a small step, but one that clears the river's flow. As Emma blows out her candle, the room settles into darkness. But it's a soft darkness, not heavy. She's not free of resentment yet, but she's free to choose how she meets it, free to let wisdom guide her healing. The stars outside her window shine on, a reminder that life keeps moving, and so can she. Her journey is far from over, but she's walking a path now, one that leads to a peace she can almost touch. Emma's candle may have gone out, but its warmth lingers in her heart, a quiet reminder of the steps she's taken. The resentment that once consumed her has softened, not gone entirely, but no longer the anchor it was. She moved through her days with a new rhythm, still busy, still navigating the demands of work and life, but with a sense of spaciousness she didn't know was possible. The betrayal, her colleague, the sting of injustice, they're still there, but they don't define her anymore. She's learning to carry them lightly, like leaves floating on the river of her life, rather than stones sinking her to the bottom. This is the gift of the Buddha's wisdom, not the absence of pain, but the freedom to choose how we meet it. Emma's journey has woven together mindfulness, compassion, and the truth of impermanence, each thread strengthening her heart. She's practiced metta, offering kindness to herself and even to her colleague. She's faced her expectations, seeing how they fueled her suffering. And she's embraced prajna, the clear seeing that transforms resentment into understanding. Now, as she stands at this moment, she's not the same Emma who sat alone in her apartment, gripped by anger. She's changed, and so has her world. Picture her now, standing on a rooftop garden she's discovered near her office. It's a quiet evening, the city's noise a soft hum below. The plants around her sway gently in the breeze, their green leaves catching the last light of the day. Emma closes her eyes and takes a breath, feeling the air fill her lungs, then release. She thinks of her colleague, not with anger, but with a kind of peace. They haven't apologized, and they may never, but that's no longer the point. She's chosen freedom, not because they deserve it, but because she does. The river of her life flows clearer now, its current steady and strong. The Buddha taught that peace comes from within, from aligning our hearts with truth and compassion. Emma's story is a reminder that this peace is possible, even in a world that feels unfair, even when wounds are fresh. It's not about erasing the past, but about choosing what we carry into the future. An old saying echoes here: "You cannot change the wind, but you can adjust your sails." Emma's sails are set now, catching the breeze of wisdom, guiding her toward a life that feels more whole. For those of us listening, Emma's journey offers a gentle invitation. Where do we hold resentment? In our work, our families, our own hearts. What might happen if we took one step toward letting go, not for anyone else, but for ourselves? The practice is simple yet profound. Notice the weight, offer it kindness, let it pass. It might be a moment of mindfulness, a wish for peace, or a quiet acknowledgement that all things change. Each step clears the river, makes space for joy, for connection, for a life less burdened. As Emma opens her eyes, the city stretches out before her, its lights twinkling like stars brought down to earth. She feels a quiet gratitude, not for the betrayal, but for the path it opened, a path to wisdom, to peace, to herself. The journey isn't over. It never truly is. But tonight, she knows she's not alone. We're all on this path, stumbling, learning, finding our way. So take one step today. Release one grudge, one expectation, one moment of pain. Let the river flow and let it carry you toward peace.